Hello, welcome to Dev Radio. I'm here with Jagadish Kantharaj. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Jagdish. How are you?
You are one of our developer influencers, and you are with Marsh McLennan and Guy Carpenter. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what you do and what the organization does, what the company does.
Yeah, sure. So I myself, I am one of the enterprise solutions architect. I work for Marsh McLennan. I'm in the Marsh McLennan. We call it MMC
Yeah.
Tech. So within Marsh McLennan or MMC Tech, we do work in different what do you call business units. One of the business unit is called Guy Carpenter. Guy Carpenter is a reinsurance broker. So we deal with a lot of clients. Clients of us are like insurers who needs insurance, and we work with markets to diversify their risks. So we, as a reinsurance broker or a professional services company, work with them in advising how to grow their portfolio profitable, what are all the risks they face, and we do a lot of analytics and advisory services, as well as maintain the book of business where we have the clients. As I said, we take their products, their insurance products, we diversify with the markets, we maintain the book of business, we collect the premiums, we process the claims, the whole life cycle of
Yeah.
insuring the insurers, right?
Yeah.
That's the way to say it. Marsh McLennan is a professional services company, around 90,000 employees worldwide. Guy Carpenter is one of the business unit. There is Marsh, which is an insurance giant. Mercer, all HR and human capital related services, and Oliver Wyman is a strategy and consulting.
Yeah. So you've got global needs, a lot of security needs because it's financial services.
Yes.
And then I think in particular you had a breakthrough around API management with
Yeah,
Kubernetes.
a lot of fun. Yes, yes. I would like to tell the story to everyone.
So what was the problem you were trying to solve? Let's start there. What was the?
Yeah, so I think we obviously cloud has happened. All of our solutions moving to the clouds. We are a hybrid cloud environment. We use Azure extensively here in the Guy Carpenter's businesses for quite some time now. One of the principle is that developing solutions all using APIs as a first class citizen, right? Whether it is consuming within the organization or across the organization, as well as, as I said, we as a broker interface with clients and the brokers and the markets, right? The markets are reinsurers, clients are like companies like AIG and things like that. So the requirements of integrating is very paramount, and when we talk about integrating, security becomes the heart of everything we do. And we use Azure API Management extensively. I think it's one of the amazing product on Azure, which I'm going to talk about. I think I guess I can talk on hours on it because we've been working on it so extensively. I think one of the cool idea which we thought of is that how do we improve the security of these APIs? The security of API expose externally, security of APIs expose internally, embracing that zero trust, shifting left, all those good principles. We wanted to improve our security. At the same time, how do we make sure that we optimize our cost and implement this APM solution for a global needs? Our applications are global in nature. We run workloads in 5 to 6 Azure regions today. So that means APIs everywhere. So how do we secure them? How do we bring the policies in a consistent manner everywhere? Right? Should we go with one APM instance every region? Should we go with one APM instance in one place? And how do we secure the APIs in other regions? So those are some of the questions we had. And then we started, internally, collaborating with several teams. Obviously, we also work with a lot of Microsoft CSAs. We interface very good CSA team supporting MMC. So we collaborated with them. We shared our ideas, and that's how this idea came into picture, increasing our security, bringing the security to the closest to the APIs, not leaving any backdoors, at the same time doing that in a cost effective manner. So that's the story I'm going to share today.
Great story.
All right. So I guess I'm sharing my screen. Matt, you're able to see my screen, right?
Yep, there it is. We see it.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to walk through. I'm keeping it more interactive here. I'm going to show and tell. I'm going to share some of the things we faced initially, how our API journey started, how we evolved it, and where we are, and how this journey actually helped us improving the security, reducing the any sort of a backdoors. You got to come through only one interface, that is through Azure API Management, and at the same time we brought the APIM, the API management, the front end API aspects closer to the back end APIs. That means we increase the proximity between the front end and the back end. At the same time, we bought the consistent policies everywhere. So let me start with this. So how we started this journey. So Azure API Management is one of the cool, fun service on Azure. Lot of good integration in Azure for API management. It comes with a management interface, comes with supporting hybrid workloads, like where you have APIs somewhere in on-prem or other cloud. You can use something called self-hosted gateway. It comes with a developer portal, lot of loaded stuff, capabilities, integration with cache. If you can integrate easily with other services with the API management. So pretty amazing interfaces available in the API management, which I would say that we have explored to a good extent. So this is how we were planning to we were securing the APIs as of you know bringing into this new architecture. We obviously, an API exposed either external or internal, consumed internally as well as externally.
And give the network a minute to catch up here. It looks like there's some issue with Jagadish's system, or we'll just all hold on for a second. The Hey, and you're back. Sorry about that. That was a platform thing, I think. That was not you.
All right, no problem. So you can still hear me and see my screen, isn't it?
Yep. So see you, hear you, see your screen, and you were just talking about, having APIs consumed both internally and externally, and take it from there.
Yeah, and we started with this journey, as I said, in one region.
Yeah.
Let's say in the East US to in the US. So this is what we were initially doing. So we have the APM pass gateway, pass the APM as a PaaS service, platform as a service, comes with its own gateway, which are managed, maintained by Microsoft. We started with that, and our backend APIs, we always started with this standard that we want to run them on AKS. AKS is another amazing service on Azure. Kubernetes service as a Kubernetes as a service, as a platform service, supports all of our API needs today. We deploy all kinds of microservices to even mega services. We started with journey that we deploy an API, we would deploy an ingress, right? And we deploy a second API, we deploy a second ingress, and so on and so forth. Obviously, it did not make sense that we kept on creating multiple ingresses. So that means that in order to access an API, you can actually bypass the whole APIM and directly hit the ingress controller, right? All the policies of throttling and security and so on and so forth. Just remember that we still have the APIs in the backend, validate the security tokens and things like that. However, all the policies we had written in the APM pass gateway were all bypassed just because these ingress were internally exposed as well. Obviously, this is not directly exposed to internet, so internet has to still come through the APIM, but pass gateway. But internally, we were creating a lot of uh, endpoints using this Kubernetes ingress and allowing someone to access that without bypassing all the policies. So then we evolved this into a next stage. It doesn't make sense. Let's, instead of creating ingress for each APIs, let's bring an ingress called app.api.xyz.com and all the APIs. And in this ingress, we manage a context or a resource endpoint to various APIs, and we would go to that. But this still left a hole in the going to the back end via the ingress, bypassing all the API policies, right? And this is, remember, this is only in single region. And then we said, why don't we, utilize some of the Kubernetes basic construct? Remember, Kubernetes uh, was one of the great thing happened. It is sort of a data center operating system, an operating system for the data center. It comes with tons and tons of abilities in a plug and play model, bringing services like DNS, uh, persistent volumes, and things like that as a completely self healing service. A lot of complexity, yet something like AKS could simplify the running Kubernetes on in a successful manner, and focusing on what our core thing we do, the API development, enabling our businesses. So we brought this idea. So the idea is here on the DNS. I'll come back to this URL in a couple of minutes. So once I explain the core idea of how we did it. So from a security, so we are still talking about the security. We are not been there yet on the cost. I'll come to the cost part of it. What we did is that, why don't we, instead of using a API path gateway, why don't we bring this self-hosted gateway into the picture? By the way, self-hosted gateway, here is the link. Is the self-hosted gateway. We switched to something called V2. I guess everybody should be using V2. It has a lot more capabilities, and Microsoft continue to add more and more into this. Lot of good features, and there are pretty much everything you could do in a managed gateway. You will be able to achieve most of it in the self-hosted gateway. There are some you cannot, but in our use case, we were able to meet all of our requirements using the self-hosted gateway. And you can compare the features here, and this page continue to be evolving, so keep looking at it. And there are some best practices which Microsoft has documented how to run the self-hosted gateway in Kubernetes, AKS, in our case, in a production. So we took all these best practices and we said, let's run this into its own namespace. So we created a namespace for API gateway, and we started running the APIs there. And we brought all the other namespaces, excuse me, into, obviously, if you want to bring your own APIs, you need to run within a namespace. We instead of exposing those APIs directly into the outside world, outside of Kubernetes, excuse me, we decided that we will expose this via the self-hosted gateway. So first thing we did is we disabled all the ingresses via a policy not to be able to deploy via the individual application namespaces. Like say namespace 1 for an application 1, namespace 2 for our application 2, and so on and so forth. And then what we did, we just deployed the ingress to just the API management. Excuse me. Sorry, Matt. I guess I should have brought some water here. So that is the first thing we did. We disabled the ingress for the apps namespaces where the APIs were deployed. And we said that we are going to bring the self-hosted gateway into the Kubernetes as its own namespace, and we just create the ingress to that endpoint. And once we are in the namespace, Kubernetes namespace, the Kubernetes DNS can do a magic for us. How do we route inbound coming from inbound request coming to a particular API, for example, an app A. Excuse me. You basically use this Kubernetes DNS. Hi. So the one of the core basics or fundamentals in the Kubernetes is this DNS for services and pods. This is what we actually utilize to kind of bring the Azure API Management self-hosted gateway into Kubernetes and internally discover the APIs for all of our APIs belonging to various applications, various solutions, because those namespaces are also in the Kubernetes. So going back to my design here, we deployed the self-hosted gateway. We had a separate namespaces for various applications. We deploy an API and which has its own backend APIs. I mean backend databases, API 1, API 2. We allowed internally within the namespace, you can talk to each other. Remember, even if you want to speak from one API to another API, you still have to pass some sort of a token, a JOT token or a bearer token. The security was still there within the namespace. But from the API management, the way we configured to go to APIs in various namespaces is by just configuring something like this. You go to the API management. Let's say I'm taking here my lab environment as a sample. You go to the web service. This is the backend configuration we do. We configure the service name, uh, the service of your API, which you have deployed in the namespace in the AKS cluster, and the what namespace you have, and you go with local svc.cluster.local. And this did the magic of what we needed to resolve internally, a simple DNS. And how do we find the DNS of a particular service is just by doing this. You can do a kubectl on it, get the service's name, and then you'll be able to get the IP. You'll be able to resolve just by going by what is the namespace, what is the service I'm interested, cluster.local. That means this endpoint is only accessible within the Kubernetes. But within the Kubernetes, all the namespaces you'll be able to discover based on the namespace and the service name you specify. So we went ahead and added this simple backend URL. So then the requests were all coming into the self-hosted gateway as an entry point. All the policies have to be executed because there is no way we can access this APIs running in a different namespace outside of Kubernetes. The only entryway is the gateway, the API self-hosted gateway, and all the policies, security, policies, throttling, all the best practices we have been developing were all implemented here by blocking all the way directly going to the backend APIs by bypassing the way we saw in the previous architecture we were struggling with. We're using some of the pass gateway. And because AKS is everywhere, we run our applications in various Azure regions, supports multiple availability zones and things like that. We also thought of another idea. Now, okay, this is great. Now, the just by using a simple Kubernetes DNS concepts, we could resolve a lot of security issues, a lot of security exposure by bringing the backend APIs into their namespace without exposing any ingress to them, by disabling the ingress, just adding the ingress to the basically go with an endpoint like this, whatever is the environment.api.ext.xyz.com. You give the product, whatever product you are interested in, what is the version of the API and the resource you are interested with, whatever is the code operations you are doing, comes down to the self-hosted gateway and then gets routed to, and this self-hosted gateway has this backend URL. Where do you actually want to get to? And with that, because it is already running in the AKS and it uses that simple DNS resolution to discover, we were able to reach to any APIs running in the any namespaces. So this is how we kind of
Yeah.
optimized uh, uh, our API security by bringing all the policies into APIM and not giving any other back channels. So if you want to access any of your API, you would have to come through the APIM with all the policies enforced, like sort of an ARM,
Yeah.
policies, which like Azure policy or an ARM engine, which is around the Azure services. You have to go through the Azure policy, Azure ARM APIs in order to reach to the Azure backend. So, sort of a similar principle we used to eventually get to the backend
Yeah.
APIs.
And I love that you just used what was already built into Kubernetes.
Yes,
The
yes.
Yeah, use the
So
features. Yeah.
that was a game changer for us. We were asking ourselves, is there any way to simplify this? But and there was the answer.
Yeah.
Going back to our basics on this.
Yeah.
So this was very simple. Eventually became a very breakthrough implementation for us.
How you mentioned cost earlier. What how did this work out for cost?
Yeah. So what did we do with this? Right. Okay. This is great now. So
Yeah.
let's say my APIs are running in multiple regions in Azure, which are used by clients and the markets. So how do we enforce this policy consistently? That's another, we resolve this in one region. Okay, now how do we do this? So should we go and deploy APIM platform in every region? Whether because it comes with a premium SKU and whatnot. Of course, we recommend running premium SKU in production. Developer SKU comes with the same capability but has lots of limitation, and as
Yeah.
the name says, it is for the developers to
Yeah.
explore. Premium is the SKU we recommend running in the production workload with all the best practices documented on here to run the self-hosted gateway. So what we did is we ran the instead of running the Azure API platforms in multiple regions, we decided that we would go down the route of APM gateways, a self-hosted gateway everywhere. Say, for example, we have in 6 regions our products and the APIs. We just started deploying these self-hosted gateways in all the AKS clusters, and we kept the management plane, the API management plane, in only one region. So we have one premium
Mhm.
SKU API management, and we run several API gateways. It comes with a much optimized cost compared to running the API management platform. And not only that, operational overhead of consistently deploying these policies into multiple API managements if you go down with that route. So we kept only one API management, the control plane. Everybody contributes the code, deploys the policies consistently to one, and the self-hosted gateways deployed in AKS clusters globally will constantly pull all the policies. Even if the APIM platform, the control plane goes down for whatsoever reason, let's say we are actually transitioning to an STV2
Mhm.
version of it, from STV1 to STV2, we can actually do that transition without impacting our backend APIs, because self-hosted gateways are up and running. Our backend APIs are up and running. Even if the entire API management goes down for for maintenance, our APIs are not impacted because all the policies have already been cached. Only thing you cannot do is you cannot push new policies into the API management control plane, but our APIs are still up and running. And we kept the management plane in one place and we deployed the self-hosted, reducing the cost of our API management almost 80%.
Oh wow, that's real. Yeah.
Yes, it's a simple math, and we put together a detailed document on this. We
Mhm.
did a cost analysis. I mean, this is also recommended
Mhm.
by all the architects that
Yeah.
you come up with an architecture, utilize the Azure services in a meaningful way, so that you are truly benefiting
Yeah.
the the cloud. And Azure is such a fun place to really, and APM, if you have not exposed,
Yeah.
not experienced on this,
Yeah.
this is one of the service we recommend to secure
Yeah.
APIs. Become APIs are everywhere, so this is a great
Yeah.
way to protect your APIs in a very very cost effective
Yeah.
manner.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw APIM demonstrated. This was like 10 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
That maybe only 7. I don't know, but it was like blown away. I was like, wow, this is good. Just this alone is worth using Azure for, because it's a hard problem. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, with this now, where we are, our APIs are everywhere.
Yeah.
Our API management cost has drastically reduced. We are using the cloud service in a very, very responsible, in a cost-effective commercial manner, and our APIs are secure because there is no way to access them other than through the API management self-hosted gateway.
Yeah.
Win-win-win situation, and we highly recommend anyone
Yeah.
using API management to
Yeah.
rethink some of their architecture.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this knowledge with us. Let me ask you one last question. So
Sure.
you're in the Azure Developer Influencer Program, and you people get into the program by sharing knowledge, by being people that share. What do you think of the program? How's that group for you?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very exciting place to be. I was one of the fortunate to get into this. So my goal is also to kind of
Yeah.
encourage others within my team and the company to
Yeah.
explore. They work on Azure day in day out, and
Yeah.
as well as several services to develop. It's a fun place to learn what's new on Azure, what's happening. So
Yeah.
it's there are tons of good stuff happening. So Matt leads the developer influence program. Something new to learn every time. We also have a monthly and quarterly calls connect developer influencers from everywhere in North
Yeah.
America get to learn from different perspective like this, what they're doing, how they're doing, and I think there is it's a fun, exciting, and lot to learn kind of a place.
Yeah.
We recommend everyone to kind of also look into this dev radio. Is
Yeah.
something which Matt is leading. Very amazing contents are coming. I myself is looking forward to do one more session
Oh,
on
at least one more. Yeah, we'll have you back soon for sure. Yeah.
I recommend anyone and everyone to look into this developer influencer. I'm actually really fortunate to be part
Yeah.
of it.
Oh,
Thank you so
well,
much.
we're glad to have you, man. We're lucky to have you too. So
Yeah.
we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, everyone.